The outer hull of Orbital Station C-49 vibrated subtly as the shuttle locked into Docking Bay 4. From inside the transport's narrow corridor, the mechanical echo sounded like distant thunder, dull, heavy, and constant. Captain Cole Mercer didn't flinch. He remained seated, eyes focused on the floor, spine straight, hands resting on his knees. He'd spent enough years in vacuum-sealed ships to know what turbulence meant and when it didn't matter. He stood when the indicator lights turned green. The loading door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a quiet corridor flanked by curved walls of brushed steel and pulse-guided light strips. Nothing looked out of place, and that unsettled him more than it should have. The artificial calm of military installations always felt dishonest, designed to keep people like him relaxed. It didn't work. Cole was in his early 40s now, broad-shouldered, built like a man who still ran drills out of habit, and with that worn, unshaven face only veterans carried. His short-cropped hair was more gray than brown. The scar above his right eye, a gift from Drelvik Prime, was still visible even after dermal reconditioning. He wore a black duty coat over plain tactical fatigues. No insignia, no rank, no medals. He wasn't active service anymore, just a civilian consultant. That's what the paperwork said. He made his way down the corridor without speaking to the deck officers. They recognized his face, but knew better than to ask questions. He had been cleared by high command. That was enough. His boots echoed softly as he walked. The station's layout hadn't changed. Clean, efficient design, no frills, no wasted space. He passed rows of reinforced blast doors and security checkpoints, none of which stopped him. He remembered it all. He remembered being here 10 years ago in a different life, back when he still believed in mission objectives. That belief had died on Drelvik Prime. His assigned quarters were at the far end of the residential wing. The nameplate just read Mercer C. No titles, no welcome message. As he approached, the door slid open automatically. And there she was. He froze in place. His pulse spiked instantly. Standing in the center of his private quarters, lit only by soft overhead lighting, was Neri Tal. She was real, not a memory, not a hologram, not a dream. Princess Neri Tal, former royal of the Azurian Empire, once thought dead during the siege, now stood alive and whole. Unaged, poised, and terrifyingly composed. Cole's breath caught in his chest. She hadn't changed. 10 years, and not a line on her face. Not a moment of aging. Her skin, a pale blue hue typical of the Azurian noble caste, shimmered faintly under the light. Her gown, translucent, sleeveless, fitted like a second skin, glistened with microfabric that shifted with her every breath. Her violet eyes locked onto him without blinking. He stepped inside slowly, the door hissing shut behind him. What the hell is this? His voice was steady, but his hands curled into fists at his sides. She didn't move. Hello, Cole. He stared at her. 1,000 thoughts fought for dominance. Anger, disbelief, memory, need. None won. He just stood there, his body rigid, mind racing. Are you real? He asked quietly. She nodded once. Yes. Cole took a step closer, examining her. You disappeared. You bled out in my arms. Then the guards came. You were gone. They said nothing. I nearly got court-martialed for pulling you out of that crater. I know. No, you don't. You vanished for a decade. I buried you. I thought maybe you were dead. I hoped maybe you had made it. But this... He gestured at her gown. You show up in my room, on an Earth-aligned station, dressed like this, and say hello. Her expression didn't waver. There wasn't a way to reach you before now. I'm not here on behalf of the Empire. Cole scoffed. Then why are you here? She took a breath and stepped forward. Her movements were calm, but calculated. Because I need you, and not for a battlefield assignment. I came back to give you a choice. Cole clenched his jaw. He didn't respond. Neri studied him, his posture, his eyes, the way he hadn't yet taken a full breath. 10 years ago, she said quietly, you risked your life to carry me out of the kill zone. You disobeyed direct orders. You crossed enemy lines carrying an injured alien princess. I never forgot that. Cole's face hardened. You sure as hell acted like you did. Her eyes softened just slightly. I didn't choose to disappear. The Empire pulled me back, sedated me for weeks. They erased all traces of the rescue. They saw your help as a liability. And I was in no condition to fight them. She was telling the truth. He could hear it, and that made it worse. You're not here just to reminisce, he said flatly. No, Neri's tone shifted. There's a faction forming within the Empire. Ultra-conservative, anti-human. They've infiltrated diplomatic channels, and they're pushing the Senate toward a Cold War with Earth. If it escalates, it won't be a war Earth can win. And you wanted to what? Go back in, play soldier again. No, I want you as my mate. The room fell silent. Cole blinked. That isn't funny. I'm not joking. Her voice was steady, but quiet. There's a diplomatic summit in 4 days. I'll be representing the Empire's centrist coalition. If I appear bonded to a human war hero, it sends a message that reconciliation is possible, that alliances can be more than trade deals. I chose you because you're the only one I trust, and because I never stopped thinking about you. Cole's throat tightened. He looked away. For a moment, the silence between them was filled with everything unspoken. You're asking me to lie to the entire Galactic Council, he said. I'm asking you to stand beside me while we try to prevent another war. And after, she hesitated. We figured out. He turned, walked to the console, and leaned against it, gripping the edge tightly. He felt the weight of it all pressing into his shoulders. Why now? He asked finally. She didn't answer right away. Then, because if I waited any longer, the next time we saw each other would have been across a battlefield. He exhaled slowly. 10 years of ghosts clawed up from the back of his mind. He had no orders, no team, no clarity, just her, and a decision that could alter the course of history. I haven't decided yet, he said. I know. She walked to the door. I'll be in Command Chamber Delta, docked above orbit. The Thyraxis. She paused. You always make your decisions alone. I won't interfere. The door slid open, and she stepped into the corridor. Wait. She stopped. Look back. Do I call you Princess or Commander now? She gave the faintest smile. Just Neri. Then she was gone. Cole stood alone in silence. He looked at the place where she had stood, the scent of her presence still in the air, clean, cool, foreign. His fingers twitched. He had 4 days. The elevator hummed as it ascended through the spine of Orbital Station C-49, carrying Cole toward the upper docking platforms. He stood rigid inside the small cabin, arms crossed, jaw clenched. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that let your thoughts fester. He hadn't slept. After Neri left his quarters, he'd sat on the edge of his bunk for hours, staring at the floor, replaying her words. Mate. Alliance. For days. Now, less than 10 hours later, he was boarding the Thyraxis, her ship. Her flagship, she'd said. That raised questions. Last he heard, Neri Tal had been a royal political hostage, not a field commander with enough power to dock in Earth's high-security orbit without triggering alarms. The elevator doors parted with a mechanical sigh. A security officer stood waiting. Taryn sighed, wearing a polished uniform and a stiff expression. She gave Cole a single nod and motioned him forward. You're clear for boarding, Captain, per high command directive. Cole stepped out without responding. He didn't like that they still called him Captain. He hadn't worn the rank in 7 years. But nobody really stopped being part of the system. They just stopped being useful to it. The outer doors opened, revealing the docking bridge to the Thyraxis. Sleek, black alloy wrapped the passage in curved architecture. Alien design. Azurian. Smooth edges, deep symmetry, ambient light pulsing softly along the floor. 2 Azurian guards waited at the end of the tunnel. Both female. Both tall, slender, and armored in the Empire's ceremonial defense exosuits. Silver blue plating over soft glow mesh, designed for intimidation as much as protection. Neither spoke as Cole approached. They scanned him, cleared him, and gestured him forward through a silent, pressure-sealed airlock. The interior of the Thyraxis was colder than he expected, not just in temperature, but in mood. The air smelled faintly of ozone and some floral compound that reminded him of medical tents from the war. Lighting ran through channels in the floor and ceiling, cool, white, sharp. Efficient. No ornamentation. No excess. Functional beauty. Just like her. A second set of doors opened. Neri stood inside. This time she was armored. No gown, no diplomat's dress. She wore a high-collared Azurian command suit, dark gray layered over reinforced blue, etched with rank insignia and empire sigils. Her hair was tied back, revealing pointed ears and a series of metallic implants running along the side of her skull. Tactical implants, direct neural interface. Not decorative. She turned as he entered. You came. Cole scanned the room. It wasn't a throne room. It was a command chamber. Holographic tables glowed with planetary scans. Orbit paths. Military strength projections. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing. You're not preparing for diplomacy. You're preparing for war. Neri didn't look away. I'm preparing to prevent one. This is the cost. He studied her face, watching for signs, fatigue, regret, fear. There was tension behind her calm. Pressure. It wasn't the performance of a ruler in control. It was the strain of someone walking a tightrope with knives below. Start talking, he said. All of it. You weren't allowed to contact me for 10 years. Now you show up with a battle-ready ship and a marriage proposal. She turned away from him and activated a console. A projection lit the room, a section of unclaimed space near the Galath expanse. Dozens of red markers blinked on screen, fleet movements. The empire fractured. After the Drelvik campaign, royal authority collapsed. My house was nearly purged. The loyalists protected me, hid me, until I could return as a neutral figure, part of the centrist bloc. Cole folded his arms. And they gave you a ship? They gave me a job and a leash. But I've pulled it tighter than they expected. Enough to negotiate. Barely. Why me? She turned back to him, her voice steady. Because the extremist factions believe human blood is weak. They see you as primitive. If I bond with you publicly, I can undermine them. Show them that strength is not defined by species, but by loyalty. Sounds like political theater. It is. And the mate thing? Neri paused. It's partly ceremonial, but the bonding contract has legal implications in the Empire. It's recognized, protected. It will tie you to me, Cole, in front of their law and in front of the council. And behind closed doors? He asked. A silence stretched between them. We'll deal with it honestly, she said. Cole looked at the data map again. He'd spent his life reading battlefield intelligence. These weren't drills. The enemy formations were real, and they were moving. How long until it starts? He asked. She tapped a point on the display. 32 hours until the summit begins. Once the extremists present their claim, we have a narrow window. If I show up with a Terran mate at my side, I can destabilize their narrative. If I don't, Earth becomes a political target. Cole stepped back from the table. His mind was already working through the implications, threat assessments, possible countermeasures, fallout scenarios. He didn't like any of them. He looked at her again, this time not as the princess he once saved, but as a commander under siege. You think this will work? I think it's the last move I have before war becomes inevitable. Cole didn't answer right away. He walked toward the viewport. Outside, Earth hung silent and unaware. Beautiful. Fragile. He thought of the crater where he'd found her 10 years ago. The blood. The smoke. Her hand, twitching in his. He sighed and turned back toward her. You'll get your answer before the summit. Her eyes flickered. Thank you. I didn't say yes. I know. She gestured to the side chamber. I had quarters prepared. Stay aboard tonight. Review the data yourself. You'll see I'm not exaggerating. He nodded once and turned toward the door. As he walked past her, he stopped briefly. You look good in armor, he said. She didn't smile, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. You never did like the gowns. No, he replied. They made you look like someone else. Then he was gone. Inside the chamber, Neri stood alone, eyes fixed on the map. Red markers continued to blink. Time was running out, and Earth didn't know it was already on the edge. Cole sat alone in the temporary quarters prepared for him aboard the Thyraxis. The room was Spartan, steel walls with embedded consoles, one bed with a built-in thermal layer, and a single chair that felt more like an interrogation seat than a place to relax. A small data pad lay on the table, pulsing with encrypted files Neri had authorized him to view. He hadn't touched it. Instead, he leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. The silence aboard the ship was different from the orbital stations. Here, it was intentional, engineered. Every ambient sound was filtered, every vibration muted. It was the kind of silence that invited thoughts he'd rather not entertain. There were too many questions and not enough time. Why did Neri really choose him? What else had she been forbidden to tell him all those years ago? And more importantly, what was the full cost of this so-called bonding ceremony she proposed? The door chimed. He didn't respond. It slid open anyway. Neri stepped inside. No guards this time. She wore a muted gray undersuit now. Military cut, no adornments. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked less like a commander and more like the woman he'd carried through fire. "You haven't looked at the data," she said. "I don't need graphs to see what this is." She stepped forward. "Then tell me what you see." He looked up at her. "I see a woman who disappeared a decade ago without a word, and now wants me to stand next to her in front of an empire that sees my kind as inferior. I see a war you're trying to delay, not prevent. And I see you asking me to be your shield without telling me what you're really protecting." Neri held his gaze for a moment. Then she walked to the wall console and tapped in a command. A display lit up, revealing a classified incident log from Drelvik Prime, unredacted. Cole stood. "What is this?" "Something I wasn't allowed to share," she said. "Until now." The footage showed Cole in combat armor, dragging Neri out of a collapsed structure. Her vitals were barely stable. Blood loss critical. Multiple fractures. Cole remembered every detail. Then the video shifted. A second perspective, overhead drone footage, showed Azurian royal guards arriving within minutes of the evacuation. Neri was forcibly sedated. Cole, in a separate frame, was restrained, interrogated by human command for violating extraction orders. "They told me you abandoned the site," she said quietly. "That you were sent home under dishonorable discharge." "I believe them." Cole's chest tightened. "They told me you never asked about me. That you never cared what happened." Cole stepped back. "That's not what happened." "I know. Now I know." He looked away. "They drugged me. Interrogated me for 5 days. Said I'd compromised the mission. When I got out, there was no record of you. No transmission. Not even a report. You vanished like a ghost." She took a slow breath. "Because they needed me gone. If news had spread that I was rescued by a human, especially by you, it would have shattered the internal propaganda they were building. They painted humans as unpredictable, as dangerous. Your act of compassion didn't fit the narrative. And now it suddenly does. It's not about narrative anymore. It's about survival. For both sides." Cole's voice dropped. "You knew they erased the truth. You still came back asking for this marriage." "I didn't come back for Bond," she said. "I came back for you." That stopped him. He didn't move. Just looked at her, really looked. "You expect me to believe this is about emotion, not politics? I expect you to remember who I was when you saved me. And I expect you to recognize who I've become because of it." He studied her. Her body language was still military, but there was no deception in her tone. No performance. This wasn't a speech. "It's not just about appearances," she added. "Once we're bonded under Empire law, you gain protections, rights, influence. You'll have a say in the vote during the summit." That was the missing piece. "You wanted to influence the vote?" "Yes. So this is about strategy." "It's both," she said. "You matter politically. But more than that, you matter to me." That last part came quieter, almost reluctant. Cole sat back down. He was exhausted, but not physically. His mind raced with implications. The files, the summit, the footage, her words. Everything he'd been told 10 years ago was a lie. She stepped closer. "I've made mistakes. I'm not asking you to forgive me, but I am asking you to help me stop what's coming." He looked up at her again. "What if this doesn't work? Then Earth becomes a battlefield, and you and I will both be on the list." The data pad still glowed on the table. Slowly, Cole reached for it. His thumb hovered above the unlock prompt. "All right," he said. "I'll read it." Her shoulders lowered, barely, but he saw the tension ease in her eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," he muttered. "You might not like what I decide." She turned and walked toward the door, but paused. Sleep if you can. You'll need your strength. The summit will not be civil. She left him alone again. Cole stared at the screen. Whatever was coming, he had to make the choice with clear eyes. This time, no one would erase the record. No one would rewrite the outcome. Not if he had anything to say about it. The following morning, Cole stood on the main observation deck of the Thyraxis, watching Earth rotate slowly below the viewport. The planet's surface shimmered beneath bands of atmosphere, but he didn't feel comforted by the view. Not anymore. He hadn't slept. The datapad from Neri had confirmed what he feared. Multiple high-level Azurian factions had begun secret weapons transfers, forming battle fleets near neutral zones. Several key royal houses were backing a declaration to withdraw all diplomatic relations with Earth. If that happened during the summit, Terran defenses would be outnumbered and outgunned within weeks. But what disturbed him more were the names hidden in the documents. Some of the fleet commanders were part of Neri's extended family, cousins, even former mentors. They weren't just extremists. They were personal. He had questions Neri still hadn't answered. Why her sudden rise to political prominence hadn't been contested. Why the Empire had allowed her access to a ship like Thyraxis. And what exactly would happen if the bonding ceremony failed publicly. As he turned away from the viewport, his comm buzzed. "Mercer, report to Tactical Briefing Room 2. Now," said a sharp female voice. It wasn't Neri. He arrived a few minutes later to find Neri already inside with 4 other Azurians, 2 military advisors, 1 data strategist, and 1 unknown man in a diplomatic uniform. The atmosphere was tense. No one was sitting. The unknown man stepped forward first. He looked human, but Cole noted the faint shimmer under his skin, subdermal synth armor. "Not military issue." "Captain Mercer," the man said calmly. "I'm Relek Var, attached to the Azurian Foreign Relations Subcommittee. You're here because you're Nerital's selected consort for the summit." Cole didn't like the word consort. He didn't like this man's tone either. "And you're here to object?" Cole asked plainly. "Not officially, but there are concerns." Neri cut in. "We're past objections, Relek. I've initiated the diplomatic bonding registry." Relek's eyes narrowed. "That registry hasn't been finalized. And if certain parties within the centrist bloc decide you're operating beyond the scope of authority, the entire ceremony could be ruled invalid, along with your voice in the summit." Cole stepped between them. "Let's skip the political threats. What exactly are you implying?" Before Relek could answer, alarms blared through the ship. Red light flooded the room. A voice rang out over the comms. "Security breach in core archive level. Unauthorized access. Containment breach in progress." Neri turned instantly to her officers. "Seal this room. Cole with me." They bolted into the hallway. Azurian guards rushed past them in formation, weapons drawn. Cole matched her pace without asking questions. "What the hell's on archive level?" he demanded. "Encrypted diplomatic records. Pre-summit strategy logs. Everything. Who has access?" 3 people. "Me, my chief of staff, and now you." Cole's stomach turned. "You think this is aimed at me? I think someone wants to sabotage us before we ever reach the summit chamber." They rounded the final corner. Smoke was pouring out from a control door. 2 guards were on the ground, alive but stunned. A high-pitched alert rang from inside. Neri stepped over the bodies, pistol drawn. Cole followed, reaching instinctively for the sidearm the ship's security chief had issued him earlier. Inside, a figure in a black infiltration suit stood at the console, uploading data into a portable drive. The figure turned, Azurian. Female, not a soldier. Neri hesitated. "Telia." The woman didn't speak. She pulled her sidearm. Cole fired first. A single clean shot to the shoulder dropped the attacker. The drive fell from her hand and clattered across the floor. Guards rushed in behind them and restrained her. Neri stood frozen. Her eyes locked on the woman, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Cole stepped forward. "Who is she?" "My aide," Neri said softly. "She's been with me for 5 years." "Why was she in your inner circle?" "She was loyal." Cole looked at her hard. Apparently not loyal enough. Later, in the command chamber, Neri stared at the decrypted files they recovered from the drive. The data was damning. Private messages between Telia and House Branix. one of the Empire's militant houses, confirming a plot to discredit Neri and leak classified Earth defense capabilities before the summit. It wasn't just sabotage, it was treason. She's been feeding them my movements, Neri said, barely above a whisper. Every strategy, every ally. Cole leaned against the console. You should have vetted her better. I did, she replied bitterly. But you don't understand what it takes to survive in Azurian politics. If you hesitate, even for a second, they replace you. Loyalty is currency. I paid in trust, and I was wrong. Cole saw the cracks now. Behind the armor, the precision. Neri wasn't infallible. She was carrying this operation on her back, surrounded by wolves dressed as advisors. So what happens now? He asked. She closed the file. We seal all channels. We move forward with the bond. We appear united publicly and politically. And what if they try again? Then they'll find out what it means to provoke an Azurian with nothing left to lose. Cole nodded slowly. You still want me beside you for this? Neri met his eyes. I need you beside me. This time, there was no hesitation in her voice. Not political calculation. Not diplomatic framing. Just the raw truth of someone who no longer knew who she could trust, and who was finally admitting it out loud. Cole stepped closer, standing beside her at the console. Then let's give them something they can't twist. For the first time since he'd arrived on this ship, Neri didn't look like someone giving orders. She looked like someone holding on, and he wasn't going to let go. The ceremonial hall aboard the Theraxis had been reconfigured into a diplomatic chamber, its angular design softened by translucent banners, suspended lights, and holographic symbols of both the Azurian Empire and the Earth Coalition. It was functional, but symbolic, designed to broadcast unity. Security was doubled. Every entrance was guarded by Azurian elite, armed and silent. No movement went unmonitored. The sabotage attempt had changed the rules. Everyone was a suspect now, including those closest to Neri. Cole stood behind the privacy curtain, adjusting the high-collared formal attire issued to him by Neri's staff. Deep gray with copper trim, it was woven with adaptive fibers and biometric sensors. A cultural blend, Azurian structure with Terran simplicity. It felt more like armor than ceremony wear, and that was intentional. He stared at his reflection in the wall-mounted display. The man looking back at him didn't feel like the version who had carried Neri out of a burning battlefield a decade ago. That man had acted on instinct. This one was making a conscious decision, with stakes far beyond life and death. The door opened quietly. Neri entered, alone. She wore a new ceremonial suit, tailored along Azurian lines, but redesigned for movement. Her skin shimmered faintly under the filtered light. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes told the truth. She was tense, focused, bracing herself. It's time, she said. He didn't move immediately. There's something you need to tell me before I step out there. She hesitated. You're stalling, he said. Neri exhaled. Once the bonding protocol begins, there's a neural link. Temporary. It's cultural, not permanent. But you'll feel what I feel. Not just on the surface. Emotionally, biologically, for exactly 13 minutes. Cole frowned. That would have been useful to know sooner. I didn't want to give you a reason to walk away. Should have trusted me to make that decision myself. Her shoulders dropped slightly. You're right. He didn't press her. There wasn't time. He stepped toward her, standing close. Are you ready for them to see us like this? I've had 10 years to prepare for everything, but this moment. The door behind them opened with a soft chime. A protocol officer stepped in and gave a single nod. The broadcast was live. Both Empire and Earth observers were watching from orbit and planetary HQs. This was no longer a symbolic gesture. It was a political pivot on a galactic scale. They stepped into the hall together. The room fell into silence. On the elevated platform, they stood beneath a shimmering light field, a ritual interface designed to register their neural signals. Cole felt it as a hum in his bones. Neri's hand brushed against his palm to palm. Their fingers interlocked. He felt a jolt. Not painful, just unexpected. A wave of memories. Her memories. He saw flashes of a childhood training hall. Imperial guards. Her father's voice, stern, disappointed. A locked room. a broadcast screen showing her collapsed body after Drelvik Prime. Then Cole, bloodied, exhausted, holding her hand on a gurney. She had remembered. All of it. Neri blinked. She saw him too, running into the fire, yelling for extraction, cradling her through collapsing steel, screaming at human medics to save her. The interface completed the sync. The officiator, a high-ranking neutral diplomat, spoke the formal phrase. Do both parties enter this agreement of union under the Charter of Stability for the preservation of peace? Cole spoke first. I do. Neri followed. I do. The hall erupted into a wave of formal acknowledgement. Holograms updated. Press signatures verified. The bond was official. But before the crowd could settle, the lights flickered. A sharp alarm sliced through the chamber. Neri turned, eyes narrowing. Shut down external comms. Now, a tech officer rushed to comply. We have a breach. Unknown ship decloaking within the 5-kilometer perimeter. No identification code. They're broadcasting something. The room's hollow wall activated on its own. A face filled the screen. Human. Male. Late 40s. Broad jaw. Military tattoos under the collarbone. Cole's heart dropped. General Braith, he said aloud. Neri turned sharply. You know him? I used to serve under him. The image of Braith sharpened. His voice came through, heavy with accusation. Mercer, you bonded with the enemy. While we bleed in silence, you kneel. Cole stepped forward. Braith, what the hell are you doing? Stopping a farce. Earth Command doesn't know what this alliance means. But I do. Azurians want access, not peace. And I won't let you sell our defenses in exchange for royal favors. The screen glitched. Braith's ship was jamming the signal. Cole turned to Neri. He's rogue, but someone gave him the clearance to reach this close. Then it's someone inside Earth Command. Cole didn't hesitate. We need to stop him before he opens fire. Neri turned to her guards. Bring engines to full readiness. And prepare a counter-transmission. If we don't turn this around fast, your people and mine will think we're already at war. Cole reached for a headset and activated the internal comm. General Braith, this is Captain Mercer. Stand down. You're in violation of inter-faction ceasefire protocol. Braith sneered. Then arrest me. And the channel cut. Cole looked at Neri. He's not bluffing. She nodded. Then we don't bluff either. The room erupted into urgent motion. And just like that, the political union had become a battle line. Red lighting swept through the corridors of the Thyraxis as battle stations activated. Alarms pulsed in steady rhythm, synced to the rising energy signature of the ship's reactor core. From a main bridge, Earth glowed quietly in the distance, oblivious to the confrontation unfolding just above its atmosphere. Cole sprinted beside Neri down the central spine of the vessel. They passed engineering teams rushing in coordinated silence, weapons and repair kits slung over their backs. No shouting, no panic. The crew moved like a practice machine. Cole hadn't seen discipline like this in years, not since his days in Orbital Recon Command. They reached the main bridge. The room curved outward toward a panoramic view screen, its interfaces built into the flooring and railings. Command officers, mostly Azurian, one human liaison, stood at ready. A holographic projection floated above the table, showing General Braith's dreadnought now hovering inside the Thyraxis' exclusion zone. Neri took her position at the command nexus. Status: shields are online. Weapons at 65%. Braith's ship is powering weapons, but hasn't locked targets yet. Cole stepped forward. Then we have seconds, not minutes. A junior officer turned. Captain Mercer, General Braith, is broadcasting to Earth Council. He's calling this a hostile seizure of power by you and Commander Neri. He claims you're executing a staged diplomatic takeover. Cole cursed under his breath. He's flipping the narrative, painting the bonding as a soft invasion. Neri didn't flinch. Then we show them that the only invasion here is his. Do not fire first, Cole warned. If we do, every human fleet in orbit will take it as confirmation. She nodded. But if he fires, we respond without hesitation. Suddenly, the projection flickered. New contact. Another ship decloaking, shouted a sensor tech. Unknown designation. Long-range signature matches. House Branix. Neri's eyes narrowed. They're joining Braith. Cole exhaled hard. A coordinated move. One rogue general. One militant house. Two sides, pretending to be enemies but pulling the same trigger. Neri turned toward him, her voice tight. Then this was never about stopping the bond. It was about baiting us into a confrontation. Before he could answer, the dreadnought fired. A focused pulse beam struck the Thyraxis's forward shields. The impact rocked the ship, sending a low shudder through the hull. Sparks burst from an overhead panel. Minimal damage, an officer called. Shields holding at 81%. Cole's instincts kicked in. Give me to weapons control. Neri looked at him. You're not crew. I don't need to be. I know how Branix-class ships think. And Braith trained me to fight them. Let me be the ghost in their blind spot. She nodded once. Take Lieutenant Kira with you. She knows our system layouts. Cole turned, moving fast. Kira fell in beside him, without question. As they moved through the lower decks toward weapons control, Cole's thoughts sharpened. His breathing slowed. This was familiar terrain, tactical unpredictability under fire. But this time, it wasn't just about taking out a target. It was about protecting Neri. Not because she asked, but because he'd chosen to. He glanced at Kira. How much damage can a Thyraxis do if I give you soft data on Braith's targeting protocols? She didn't hesitate. With his behavioral matrix exposed, we could blind his forward systems. Good. I'll run the logic. You do the override. By the time they reached the weapons bay, the floor was vibrating with residual impact shock. Officers cleared the station to make room. Cole pulled up Braith's old encryption patterns from memory, tapping into a private diagnostic port. After 2 minutes of calculated code injection, Kira's console lit green. Targeting reticule misalignment confirmed. We're in. On the bridge, Neri's voice came over the comm. Cole, ready when you are. He keyed his mic. On my mark, vent decoy flares along port side. Send false data to his sensors. When he compensates, we'll use the angle to pin his left thruster cluster. Understood. Seconds passed. Mark, from a viewport, dozens of flares burst in a bright arc. Braith's dreadnought adjusted, just as predicted. The Thyraxis fired a concentrated barrage of disabling shots. No hull penetration, just precision strikes against his thrusters and comm systems. The dreadnought listed. On the tactical display, Branix's support vessel paused, hesitated, then pulled back. Cowards, Cole thought. They were never here to fight, just to witness a collapse. Back on the bridge, Neri stood motionless as the last volley landed. The dreadnought powered down. No counterattack, no retreat. Braith had been silenced. Target disabled, the weapons officer confirmed. They're transmitting surrender code. Neri let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Then, over open comms, she spoke. This is Commander Neri Tal. Hostile action has been neutralized. The bonding alliance between Earth and Azuria remains active. Let this transmission stand as proof that we faced aggression, not provocation. Cole returned to the bridge just in time to hear it. As Neri turned to him, her voice quieted. You could have walked away. I still could, he replied. She studied him. Will you? No, not this time. For a long moment, there were no alarms, no orders, just silence. Then Neri said softly, good, because this was just the first wave. Cole nodded. Then I'll be right here for the second. Together, they stood on the bridge, two soldiers from two worlds, no longer just allies, but something more. Not just a political bond, something real. Cole stood at the edge of the Thyraxis's upper conference deck, eyes fixed on the screen projecting Earth's orbital network. Dreadnoughts were repositioning. Civilian satellites had gone dark in certain regions. And above it all, Earth Command remained silent. Too silent. Behind him, Neri entered, accompanied by Lieutenant Kira and an Earth liaison in a dark blue uniform. He turned and recognized the man instantly. Ambassador Roth Halden, Earth Council's diplomatic lead. Cole crossed his arms. Took you long enough. Halden's expression was tight. We've had internal issues. Communications have been restricted. Let me guess, Cole said. Braith wasn't acting alone. Halden didn't deny it. Neri stepped forward. Then who gave him authorization to break orbit protocol? Halden hesitated. I can't confirm that. Cole's eyes narrowed. Don't insult us. We just stopped a coordinated attack from both sides of the fence. If there's a leak in the council, we need to know who it is. Now, Halden turned his attention to Neri. You've formed a political union with a Terran citizen, one that could shift our alliances in a way many aren't comfortable with. We're not all on the same page anymore. You never were, Neri said flatly, which is exactly why your systems are vulnerable to manipulation. Halden stepped closer. Do you understand what this looks like back home, Mercer? You were a decorated soldier. Now you're seen as a political tool. Some even say you've been compromised. Cole's jaw tensed. Then let them say it. The truth is, I was compromised 10 years ago when I saw a woman dying in rubble and chose to save her instead of following a kill order. I've been living with that compromise every day since. And I'd do it again. Halden didn't speak. The moment stretched. Finally, Neri cut through the tension. If you won't give us names, then you're no longer useful in this operation. Halden looked at her coldly. Then I suppose the next war will be fought without Earth's diplomats. Cole stepped forward. Then maybe it's time we stop pretending peace comes from people like you. Neri motioned to Kira. Escort Ambassador Halden back to the diplomatic shuttle and disable all his outgoing comms until this summit ends. Once the liaison was gone, Neri exhaled and sat on the edge of the console. Her face had changed in the past few hours. The formal poise was still there, but now it was mixed with fatigue and something else. Resignation. Cole sat next to her, silent for a moment. Then, you knew something like this would happen. I didn't know how soon, or how close. He looked at her. There's more. Yes. She stood, walking to the encrypted data core built into the command panel. She unlocked it manually, then handed Cole a data chip. This is the order that assigned me to command the Thyraxis. It was signed by my mother before she died. But there's a hidden clause. Cole inserted the chip into the display port. A second signature appeared, one encoded with an Imperial override. He scanned it, then looked up at her. My name's on this. Yes. What is this? The real reason I was given this ship. It wasn't because I was a centrist or a diplomat. It was because I was the only living member of the royal family who had a binding tie to a Terran with battlefield hero status. Cole stared at the screen. You mean me? She nodded. They chose me because I knew you. Because they knew I could bring you in. And if I didn't, this ship would be reassigned. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want to lie. But I also didn't know if you'd come with me willingly. Cole stepped back. So all of this? No, not all. She met his eyes. The mission started because of you, but I stayed because of me. Silence filled the room. Then Cole spoke, quieter this time. That day on Drelvik, when you woke up in the med tent and disappeared, was that your decision? No, she said softly. But staying away for 10 years after? That was... He didn't respond for a long time. I hated you for a while, he admitted. I hated myself longer. He looked at her, not with anger now, but with the weight of truth between them. So, where does that leave us? She stepped closer. Wherever you wanted to. He studied her face, the woman she had become. Stronger, smarter, more dangerous, maybe, but still the same Neri underneath. Then let's finish what we started. She raised an eyebrow. The mission, the story. Before she could reply, the comms system lit up again. This is Earth Command. Authorization code confirmed. Requesting joint transmission link with Thyraxis. Cole turned toward the interface. What changed? He asked. Kira answered from the panel. They just received Braith's confession. He recorded it. Sent it to an independent media node as a failsafe. It just went public. Neri smiled faintly. Then the wolves just turned on each other. Cole nodded. Good. Let them. Neri walked to the center of the room. We go to the summit in the morning. But tonight, we make the galaxy remember who we are. Together. Cole stood beside her. For the first time in 10 years, he didn't feel like a man out of place. He felt like he'd come home. The summit chamber aboard Orbital Council Station Genesis hovered in geostationary orbit between Earth and the Azurian core territories. It was a place of artificial balance, half controlled by humans half by Azurians, and for the last 15 years, largely symbolic. No peace had ever started here. No war had ever been stopped. Until today. Cole stood beside Neri in the elevated circle at the center of the chamber. Around them, dozens of council representatives sat in their designated zones, arranged by faction, military, economic, diplomatic. Above, the press node shimmered, projecting the proceedings in real time across hundreds of systems. He glanced at Neri. Her armor was gone, replaced by a formal command robe of midnight blue trimmed in silver. Still royal, still Azurian, but now unmistakably her own. Cole wore his hybrid uniform again, Terran cut, but reinforced with Azurian command threads. Not a soldier, not a politician. Something else, something new. Neri stepped forward first. I speak today not as a princess of a fallen house, she began, but as a commander who has bled in silence for too long. Our worlds have been manipulated into mistrust. We have been played by extremists, by cowards, and by those who profit from chaos. She gestured to the center console. The confession of General Braith, broadcast yesterday, confirms what many of us feared. That war was never a question of necessity, but of orchestration. A manufactured conflict built on lies. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. No one interrupted. She turned slightly, her voice steady. But I stand here today, bonded to a Terran soldier who once disobeyed his command to carry me, a political enemy, through fire and death. He saved me not because it served his interests, but because it was right. Now Cole stepped forward. He kept his voice even. I'm not a politician. I've never written a treaty or negotiated a ceasefire. I've spent most of my adult life watching things break. Nations, friendships, bodies. And I've learned this. You don't end a war by being the last one standing. You end it by being the first one willing to put your weapon down. He looked around the room. I put mine down 10 years ago. Today, I'm asking you to do the same. No applause followed. That wasn't how this room worked. What came next would decide everything. The neutral chair, a veteran stateswoman from the Varelian Union, stood slowly. The council acknowledges the formal political union between Commander Nerital and Captain Cole Mercer as valid and binding under cross-factional diplomatic law. Their alliance, and the evidence presented regarding General Braith, has triggered an emergency override of the war authorization vote. She paused. Effective immediately, all fleet deployments toward Earth and Azurian border worlds are suspended. All offensive war protocols are frozen pending a full investigation. Relief swept the chamber in waves, subtle, dignified, but visible. Several factions nodded. A few left the room, visibly defeated. Others remained silent, calculating. But the vote was done. They had won. Cole exhaled slowly. Neri placed a hand gently on his. Outside, as they walked through the station's open-view promenade, the stars stretched across the dark like rivers of quiet fire. Earth glowed beneath them. For the first time in years, it looked like home again. You didn't say everything you could have in there, Neri said quietly. I said enough, Cole replied. Words don't stop bullets. But maybe they slow the next one. She smiled faintly. You're more Azurian than you think, and you're more human than you admit. They walked in silence for a while. No guards, no advisors, just the two of them side by side. She stopped at the edge of the promenade, gazing out at the stars. You know this won't last forever. There will be others who challenge what we built here. I know. You ready for that? Cole turned to her, eyes steady. I didn't come all this way just to leave you alone at the next fight. She studied him, then took his hand. No more leaving, she said. No more. And for the first time since the fire and rubble of Drelvik Prime, there were no alarms, no orders, no fear. Just the beginning of something neither of them thought they'd get to have. Peace. Together.